Welcome today to the 12th chapter of PMBOK. Today we are covering project procurement management. And in project procurement management, we have four processes. First of all, in the planning, we establish which is that work of the project which we cannot do due to certain reasons. There could be three reasons, as I defined earlier also. Number one, you do not have the capability to do some work, so you decide to outsource it. Number two, you do not have the capacity to do some work. You know how to do it, but you do not have enough resources to do it. Therefore, you decide to outsource it. Or third, you do have the capability and capacity both, but the task itself is too risky to handle by yourself. So you feel that it would be better to be handled by some experts. So you are trying to transfer the risk to third party or to the subcontractor. And we have already studied in project risk management how and why we transfer a risk to a subcontractor. So these would be three situations in which you decide that you will not do this job yourself. And this is the part of the project which you are trying to outsource. As soon as you have decided that this is the part of project which you want to outsource, you must create a statement of work. A statement of work is a document which describes briefly what you intend getting done from the subcontractor. It could be a very brief document of maybe 1.5 page long maximum, nothing more than that. Do not write all the details because this is supposed to be a very high level document, and the subsequent documents we are going to be creating in planning of procurement would actually define the requirements. So once you have prepared the statement of work, you will then decide what kind of procurement you want to do. There are a number of procurement documents. You will select the appropriate procurement document or documents for this specific case and then prepare those documents. And those documents could include a RFP or RFQ or expression of interest or whatever. So there is a long list of the procurement planning documents. So you will prepare those documents and you will also lay out the selection criteria for the subcontractors or the bidders who would be bidding for this project. How would you make the selection? What is the criteria? How much points you intend giving for what specific characteristic or capability of the bidder? So all the details about how the whole process will go will also be included in your design, in your procurement planning. So when you plan your procurements, you explicitly decide which are those jobs you want to get them outsourced. There could be more than one. And this decision is called make or buy decision. Make or buy decision. That essentially means whether you want to make it yourself or buy it from somewhere. So procurement could be of anything. It could be a ready-made product. It could be some raw materials. It could be some service. It could be a part of sub-project to be done by the subcontractor. So whatever that is the procurement, and all the procurements have to be planned this way. It also includes a general instruction or mechanism how the conduct of procurements, actual execution of procurement will happen, how the procurements will be controlled and ultimately closed. And naturally, the change control mechanism within the procurement will also have to be described in outline. This was what we were doing in planned procurements. We created a lot of document, we did a lot of planning, but as such, we have not hired anyone during planning. Or for that matter, we can say that we have not even advertised these requirements in the newspaper or to the interested bidders. But we prepared all the documentation which will be required for the purposes of giving the contract. Now I have got everything ready as far as the procurements are concerned. Everything is planned. Procurement will actually happen during execution. Why? Why can't we give all the contracts beforehand in planning, and when the work is to be done, the contractors should come and they should do their job? Not actually, because the work to be outsourced might have been spread over the execution time. Maybe a specific task or job or work is to be done in the 6th month of the project. Another contract is to be outsourced in the 9th month of the project. So if we do all this processing right now in the planning, the contract may or may not remain valid for such long period, and then the conditions would have changed. Maybe it is no more valid at that point in time. And moreover, we want to give the contract when we require it to be done. So the process of giving the contract starts a little before the actual work which has to be outsourced is supposed to start. The work is supposed to start. Like your schedule says that this job should actually start on ground on 15th of July. You must calculate backwards and see how much sooner should you advertise and how much time it will require for the selection of the vendor, and ultimately when you are expected to award the contract to the subcontractor. So all the time required to do all this must be before the date of start of the job. Let us suppose it takes about 3 months to give the contract to a subcontractor. So 3 months before 15th of July, you must advertise in the newspaper and then follow the schedule of selection accordingly. This is actually called conduct procurements, and this is happening where? It is happening in execution. Are you with me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So in conduct procurements, as I said,
Hi and welcome to PMPLounge.com. This is Lounge Fever.
hold on, there is something wrong. I just fixed it. Right. Okay. So I was talking about conduct procurements, and I said whatever you planned in your procurements will actually be executed when required during execution, and that whatever is to be done during that execution about procurement is called conduct procurements. And it includes, during the execution, it includes advertising in the newspapers, conducting the bidder conference, receiving the proposals, evaluating them, interviewing them, getting their presentations, ultimately selecting the shortlisted conductors, and then ultimately awarding it to the one after due negotiation and contract. So this is what is done in conduct procurements. Actually, the work to be done on the specific contract awarded is now not our responsibility. It is now the responsibility of the contractor. As far as we are concerned, we have done our duty in execution of awarding the contract. Now it is up to the contractor how and when he does it, and naturally we have provided him a schedule, and according to that he will be doing it. But we now have a contract which describes what and where and when he should be doing that. Now we move to the monitoring and control while the contractor starts his process of his own projects, initiation, planning, execution, whatever. And we keep watching him in monitoring and control. And according to the conditions of the contract, we keep monitoring him and controlling him. He will keep reporting to us, and we would keep assessing him, auditing his work, quality controlling his products, and ultimately accepting his output. This all will happen in controlled procurements. There might be a condition where contractor wants something to be changed in contract or the project or his part of the contract. So all the change requests sent by a contractor would be dealt with by the controlled procurements process. Similarly, maybe the whole project has got a change request, and that change after approval is now also going to impact the contractor. So such like changes are also communicated to the respective contractor, as if there is a need to make any amendments to the contract, any renegotiations have to take place, that can be done, and this all happening in controlled procurements. So by the end of controlled procurements, the work on all such outsourced portions of the work must complete during monitoring and control, and their deliverables accepted and their work checked. And once all the contracts have been properly completed, then we move on to the closing process group, and there we have a closed procurements process, which is a kind of a auditing function to ensure that all the contracts have been properly closed down and there is nothing outstanding. No payments, no claims, no change requests, everything is settled. This is the last assurance that the procurements have been completed, and once that is done, the project can be declared closed. Naturally, we have a separate process for closing the project, and that is the parent process, and this closed procurement is the subordinate process of closed project or phase. So closed project or phase is responsible for overall closure of the project, but naturally the procurements are also part of it, so we have to take into account that all procurements have been properly closed down, and only then the whole project can be declared closed. So this was just a brief description of how the procurement process happens through these four processes in the project lifecycle. Any questions so far?
No, sir, it's clear.
So as we were talking, planned procurement is the process of documenting project procurement decisions, that was the make and buy decision, specifying the approach and identifying the potential sellers. Conduct procurement is the process of obtaining seller responses, that is the bids, selecting the seller and awarding a contract. So by the time we award the contract, we are done with our execution job. Conduct procurements happens in execution process group. So our job is to sign the contract. As soon as we have signed the contract, we are done with procurements, conduct procurements. Now, when the job will be actually done by the contractor, we would then be in control procurements. And this process is to managing procurement relationships according to the contract, monitoring the contract performance, and making changes and corrections as appropriate. And finally, in closing process group, we have close procurements, which is the process of completing each project procurement. We might have more than one project procurement going on right now in the project. So it is going to be assuring that everything, all the contracts have been properly closed down. Coming specifically to the project procurement management, this includes all these four processes we discussed, which are to purchase or acquire the product, service or results needed from outside of the project team to perform the project work. Now, outside of the project team, why? Because we have decided in make or buy decision, we cannot do it ourselves or we should not do it ourselves. So this chapter presents two perspectives of procurement. Organization can either be a buyer or seller of the product, service or result under a contract. What does that mean? Organization can either be buyer or a seller. Anyone who can help me on that? In a contract, who is the buyer and who is the seller?
So we are the buyer and the other person is the seller,
Okay.
the vendor.
The subcontractor is the seller. Right? You are
Yeah, the
exactly
subcontractor.
right that we are the buyer and he is the seller, but this is in the perspective of the contracts we are giving out. What about the agreement based on which the whole project we are doing is based on? We might have been doing this whole project for some buyer. Maybe we are doing the whole project under a contract, under an agreement. And in that agreement, we are the sellers and the other entity is the buyer. Although we are not specifically talking about this scenario, but it is saying that organization can either be a buyer or seller. So in that case, when the project, our own project was started, you remember when the charter was being developed, we had three inputs: statement of work, business case, and what? And an agreement.
Agreement.
And that agreement was could be a contract. And that statement of work was the statement of work created by our customer. So in that case, we were we were the sellers, we were the contractors, and the person or organization who gave us that contract was the buyer. So that perspective, we are the seller, and in this perspective where we are subcontracting, we are the buyers. But here, because we are talking about the procurements here from within the project, so this is the scenario of we being the buyer and our subcontractors being the sellers. Project procurement management includes the contract management and change control process required to administer contracts or purchase orders issued by authorized project team members. So, all the contracts we will outsource, there has to be a mechanism which would be responsible for the management of all the contracts which are being given out from the project, and to maintain and control the change through a documented process and keep it updated. So for that purposes, we have to have a contract firstly developed with each contractor, which would be done in execution, and later in monitoring and control. In the process of control procurements, we are actually being responsible for management of that contract and change control process. Next, project procurement management also includes administering any contract issued by an outside organization, the buyer that is acquiring the project from the performing organization, the seller, and administering contractual obligations placed on the project team by the contract. Now it is talking about the main project, the whole project in which we are the seller and our customer is the buyer. So that procurement also will be catered here in project, right? Because then in this case, we will act as a seller and we will oblige according to the contractual requirements which have been imposed upon us according to that contract. Do not be confused. Just remember, we are more concerned about our own subcontractors, but at the same time, we are also maintaining the relationship with our customer through another contract, which is the main contract. Again, buyer is normally the customer, seller is the contractor or the vendor or the supplier, and these people are most likely external to the performing organization, right? So the terms and conditions of the contract become key inputs to many of the seller's processes. Now, explicitly coming to the first process, that is planned procurement management, it is the process of documenting project procurement decisions. And what are those? Make or buy decision, project procurement decision, specifying the approach, how we'll go about it, and identifying potential sellers. Key benefit of this process is that it determines whether to acquire outside support, and if so, what to acquire and how to acquire it, how much is needed, and when to acquire it. The inputs, tools, and techniques, these are given here. So you see the key benefit here. We have to determine whether we require that service or not. This is the make or buy decision. And if we have to acquire it, then we have to specify what to acquire. That would be the statement of work for that work. What to acquire. How to acquire is our procedure, our selection criteria, our mechanism, and how much is needed and when to acquire it. That is the schedule according to which you will actually behave and act. So the inputs here, naturally the project management plan will have to be there because procurement management plan is part of the project management plan, and because we are giving out the contract which is part of the whole project, and therefore the schedule management plan, the cost management plan, all other management plan will be required to create these conditions, because we are going to tell our subcontractor the exact schedule and cost which has to be spent on that. Therefore, all those documents which we created in project management plan may be required. Like, we require the requirements documentation here because that specifies what is to be acquired. And now out of the total requirements, the requirements of this subcontract, I am going to get them out and put them in shape of a contract ultimately. Then we also have the risk register, and if any of the risks can impact the procurement process, that would be highlighted here. Activity resource requirements, how much people were required, were supposed to be needed for this job, that is also a good input. The schedule is an input, cost estimate is an input, stakeholder list of stakeholders is an input, and naturally the enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets. So all these things are required to be input when we are planning the procurement. So far, we are not giving it away. We are just writing the procurement management plan. So the output of this process is the procurement management plan. Naturally, the procurement statement of work. Procurement statement of work is a specific output. And that is the answer of what question? That is the answer of the question, what to acquire. Statement of work defines what to acquire. It doesn't tell how to acquire it, what to acquire. Then we have procurement documents. And what are the procurement documents? They could be RFP or the RFQ, EOI or whatever kind of procurement documents. And these documents are completely based on the statement of work. These procurement documents are based on the statement of work, meaning what? That these documents can only be created if the statement of work exists. If there is no statement of work, you cannot create the procurement documents because the base document is a statement of work. And statement of work is just an outline document. It is not a very detailed or a lengthy document. It could be described in only, say, a page or two. Next output is a source selection criteria, that is the procedure for selecting the contractors. The criteria you established, how you are going to rank them, give them points for their capabilities. More than one bidders are there and you have to choose one. Naturally, we have already done the make or buy decision because based on that make or buy decision, we have created what? If you talk in sequence, make or buy decisions. After that, we have done the statement of work. Then we created the procurement document, and then we created the source selection criteria. Any change requests so far will be accommodated, and project documents could be updated. Okay. Any doubt so far?
No, sir. It's good.
Okay, let's talk about various types of contracts, which we have yesterday also talked about a bit. We did talk in the end of the risk. We said if we are trying to transfer the risk, that means we are trying to give the risky part of the project over to a subcontractor. That is one example of risk transfers. And there we studied, out of various types of contracts, the firm fixed price contract is the one which is safest for the buyer, least riskiest for the buyer, and most riskiest for the seller. So as a buyer, I would like to take almost no risk. So firm fixed price is a very good contract for me. And in that, my contractor will carry all the risk. Naturally, I am paying him for that, but my contractor should carry all the risk. In a firm fixed price contract, this category of contracts, these are called fixed price or price contracts. This category of contracts involve getting a fixed total price for a defined product, service or result. What I have done is, I have asked various people to bid for a job and give me a fixed figure, a lump sum figure. So if I want to get a house constructed, I have told them that this is the location, this is the design of the house, and this is what I want. So what is the total price of the whole project? So they will quote a firm fixed price which will include everything. I will only accept the finished good. I do not have any responsibility for paying for anything in between, maybe, for the equipment cost and this and that. I have given all the responsibility to the contractor in a fixed prompt price. So the lump sum figure they come up with, they say this will cost you, say, 6 crore rupees. So I must have my own calculations done before this, and I must have a fair picture that if I was to do this project by myself and I would have to buy the things directly from the market and services right from the market, how much it would have costed me. Say if I do it myself, it costs me 4 crore rupees. So why this person is asking me 6 crore rupees? I have selected him, for example. Out of the many, he was the cheapest and the best. So I have selected him. Why am I ready to pay 6 crore, which job can be done in 4 crore? Any answers?
Because we are paying him for the risk.
We are paying him for the risk, and just like insurance, we have to pay a premium for that. So for the transference of that risk and for convenience, which we are going to enjoy, sit back and relax. For that convenience, we are paying through our nose. And that is this 2 crore rupees he's charging me for all his risks, all his expenses, and for his profit. This is what he's charging me extra. So if I agree and we sign, then whatever has been agreed, this is from now onwards complete responsibility of the contractor to create. I am not going to pay him anything extra in any case. And if he can, take this risk, he can do this job and no risk occurs, he is lucky. He will save more money. But if there is a risk which occurs and causes him a damage of 3 crore rupees, I am still not responsible. Contractor has did his bid, and I accommodated that, and ultimately we agreed. So anything going wrong is his own responsibility, not mine. I will not accommodate anything. These types of contracts are only good when you have clearly defined specifications and requirements, and the scope of the project is pretty much sealed. You do not expect that any changes will come in the scope, and after the contract has been given, the scope should not be changed, because the lump sum figure we have agreed is for that job which we initially have explained to the contractor, and he has placed a bid for that. Now if I say that I want to change the scope, or I want to change the design or anything within the project, the contractor will quote you the contract and would say that this is not given in the contract, and if at all you need to add this requirement, that requirement would cost you extra, and now you are bound with this contractor, and this contractor is going to make you pay for the changes again through your nose. Therefore, if your contract is highly flexible, you should not give it on a fixed price contract. I have agreed that I will pay for this house as amount of 6 crore rupees, and I just tell him that the door in room number 2 should be moved from west wall to the east wall. And he would say, well, this is against the contract. And the change control procedure says that if there is a change, you will have to pay this much penalty, and then we will accommodate that. Or he may say that the shifting cost is 1 crore rupees. Because you are held up, you are bound by this contract to this contractor. And now something which is not in the scope, when it is to be added, contractor is going to blackmail you. He will be charging you extremely high rates for that service because he knows you cannot go elsewhere. This is exactly what the Chinese companies are doing here in Pakistan, especially in telecom. What they do is they are offering their services to BTCL or whatever at such a low rate for the contracts, rather throwaway rates. They are paying themselves for whole equipment, and they get into a contract with PTCL, and ultimately once they have installed the machinery and everything, now if there is any change, if some equipment has to be upgraded, then they ask PTCL to pay such a huge price that in that price they could have got a new system altogether. So because we are bound with them through this kind of a contract, so we are limited, our choices are limited, and we have to be blackmailed in that case. Do you understand the fixed price? This is also called firm fixed price. Right. There are some, fabrications or some other versions of the firm fixed price in which we make it a bit more flexible. The firm fixed price is a very, binding kind of a thing, and there is not much of allowance for change in it. There are 3 types within this fixed price. One is the firm fixed price, which I just described to you. Another is called fixed price incentive fee. Now what I have done is, I have given this contract in 6 crore rupees to my contractor, and now I am giving him a type of incentive to work better, work earlier, and if he does meet the targets I define for him, I will give him extra incentive fee which could be defined beforehand. For example, I tell him if he completes the project 3 days earlier, I will give him 5% extra. If he completes the project with better quality, more efficiency, I'll give him this much incentive. So, though I am in control, as a buyer, I am in control, but I am sharing some of his load by incentivizing it, by making it attractive for him, and naturally he gets incentives and I get other benefits like earlier completion of the project or better quality of the project or something like that. So this is called fixed price incentive fee contracts. So this is a variation of the firm fixed price contract in which everything was bound. The third type is fixed price with economic price adjustment contracts, EPA, economic price adjustment. Such type contracts are where there is some international uh, funding or dollar parity involved in it, or in your country the currency of your country is not very stable and it keeps fluctuating with regard to the dollar. So if that be the case, the contractor would require from the very beginning that although he has agreed on a fixed price, but this must be locked to either the dollar amount or he should be allowed to do the economic price adjustment. Whenever there is change in the price of the dollar, the cost of the contract will be revised. So economic price adjustment is the adjustment made according to the current economic conditions. So these are the three types of fixed price contracts. Any comments so far?
No, sir, it's fine.
Then we have got another type of contracts. These are called cost reimbursable contracts. Now, these are different types of contracts. Previously we were talking about price contracts, fixed price contracts. Now we are talking about cost reimbursable contracts. Can someone tell me the difference between the price and contract, price and cost? Price and cost.
So price is the uh, money which we agreed upon. It doesn't mean that is the actual cost of that specific object or thing.
Raw materials and
Cost,
everything. Yes.
cost is the actual money spent on that specific object.
Okay, right. Wonderful. You are very right. Price, you go to the market and buy a packet of biscuits. The price written on it is what you have to pay for the packet. So the fixed price contract was the whole packet. If I had to get a house constructed, the whole house was a packet. The whole complete package was, priced at 6 crore rupees, and I agreed. Now in a cost reimbursable contract, it is not the price which matters, it is the cost of all the raw materials, of working, of everything else which is spent actually on ground, that is the cost. So we hire a contractor and we tell him to do this job, and whatever is the cost of the materials and everything, labor and material and everything, that cost will be promptly reimbursed during the life of the project to the contractor. So he cannot keep any margin for profit or anything, because the cost he is actually not paying. Actually we are paying, we are reimbursing him that cost. Now the effort he is doing in this process could be paid separately there are various methods of doing that. And those methods are cost plus fixed fee contracts. Cost means cost reimbursable. So all the costs which will incur, we will pay. But for the job done by the contractor of coordinating the work of the contract, he would be paid a fixed agreed amount at the end of the day. So what we are paying him? The cost is reimbursed for all the materials, and a fixed fee is already agreed in the contract, which is to be paid to the contractor for his services. Another type of contract could be cost plus incentive fee contracts. Same, the cost will be reimbursed, but if he does a good job, he gets an incentive. So here the contractor will have incentive to work better, perform well, and maybe save money for you, because whatever he saves, that is in the costs, and he is not actually paying the cost. All the costs are being reimbursed to him. So I am giving him an incentive to work efficiently and save money which I have to reimburse. And as a result, I am giving him some kind of incentive. And that could be pre-decided in the contract. What incentive, how much incentive, what is the percentage of that incentive. So whatever that incentive is, that is decided when this kind of contract is signed. Third type is cost plus award fee contracts. In these contracts again, all the costs will be reimbursed by us, but the contractor, if he performs well, he would be rewarded. You see, incentive was different. We had already defined how much incentive he will get for what kind of service. Award is like, we are giving him, kind of a medal for his services, which could be in shape of financial benefit or whatever. But this depends upon us how much we want to reward him. We do not predefine that this is your incentive. Because if we pre-decide, then that is cost plus incentive fee contract. But in this case, it is cost plus award fee contract. So contractor can expect to be rewarded at the end of the project. So that is the award fee. Are you okay till now?
Yes, sir.
Next is the time and material contracts. Time and material contracts are only used on short assignments. For example, I have uh, to hire the services of a consultant for few hours or few days or short periods of time to do a feasibility or to give a decision or to consult or whatever. So such like short contracts would be priced according to the time and the material which is expended on that. For example, the consultant will be paid on hourly basis for as much time he spends on the contract. Moreover, whatever the contract consultant is performing, all the materials to be used in that service would be provided by the buyer. So you just hire the time of the contractor on the consultant, pay him on the hourly basis, and pay him for any materials if there is any usage of any material. Right? Like you hire my services for your company to conduct a training. I'll charge your company on an hourly rate, and on top of that I will charge you separately for any training material being provided or the certificates provided at the end of the course. So there is a cost for my time and there is a cost for the other materials which I provide. This is called a time and material contract. Okay, so these were the types of contracts. Make or buy decision is, you look at, while you are doing the planned procurements, you look at the whole WBS and the scope of the project and the activity list and see which are those activities or group of activities which you think you cannot do. And I gave you the reasons beforehand. Either you are not capable of doing it, or you do not have capacity to do it, or the thing is too risky. So whatever the matter is, ultimately if you decide that this is the job or the group of activities which is to be subcontracted, then this is your make or buy decision. Based on this make or buy decision, we will later on develop the statement of work and then the procurement documents. Project management plan, you understand, and procurement management plan, and the contents of the procurement management plan should be what type of contract is to be used, any risk management issues involved, whether independent estimates will be used and whether they are needed as evaluation criteria. What is independent estimate? That is before we can award the contract, before we receive the bids, we do an independent estimate of the whole project, of this outsourced work which is to be outsourced. We do a detailed estimate by ourselves or through a consultant, which will give us a fairly good picture how much is to be spent on this project. Now when I see the bids, I would know that somebody has quoted too high or too low. So this becomes my standard against which I measure which bids to be selected. Then procurement management plan also includes all those actions the project management team can take unilaterally if the performing organization prescribe procurement, contracting or purchasing department. Standardized procurement documents, if there are any in the organization, they will be needed and used. Managing multiple suppliers, it is very much possible that more than one supplier or contractor is working with you on this project. So the person who would be managing the procurements would be dealing with all those suppliers or contractors. Coordinating procurements with other project aspects such as scheduling, performance reporting. So whatever the contractor will perform would ultimately impact the schedule and cost and performance of my whole project. Therefore, there has to be a coordination between the procurement work and the actual work of the project. And if there are any constraints and assumptions that could affect the planned procurements, that should be listed down in the procurement management plan, and handling the long lead times to purchase certain items from sellers and coordinating the extra time needed to procure these items with the development of the project schedule. Like you see, there are sometimes some equipment which has to be imported and it take as long as 6 to 9 months or a year. So in that case, we would give a lead time for those purchases to occur. We cannot expect right from the date of signing of the contract that the things would be starting the next day. Even the machines are required, they are taking 6 months. Until and unless those machines arrive, we cannot move ahead with the work of the contract. Therefore, it should be so well planned that all the orders are to be placed well in advance, and we can keep doing certain activities which do not involve those machines which are being procured. Handling the make or buy decision and linking them into estimate, activity resources and schedule processes. Setting the schedule dates in each contract for the contract deliverable and coordinating schedule development and control processes. Identify requirements for performance bonds or insurance contracts. Establishing the direction to be provided to the sellers. Establishing the form and format to be used for the procurement contract statement of work, identifying pre-qualified sellers, if any, to be used, and procurement metrics to be used to manage contracts and evaluate sellers. So you can read through all these things and that would give you a very good picture, but all should be included in the contract. Sorry, in the procurement management plan, not the contract. Then is a procurement statement of work. As I described earlier, procurement statement of work, as soon as you have done the make or buy decision for all those items which are to be bought, you have to create a statement of work. No matter that is a raw material, that is a machine, that is a product or a service or a result, whatever that is, the statement of work will have to be developed for that. And then based on that procurement statement of work, we will develop the requisite procurement documents, which could be, as I said before, request for information, information for bid, request for proposal, request for quotation, tender notices, invitations for negotiation, invitation for sellers, initial response, and there could be more. So this all is based on statement of work. Then the source selection criteria, how would you grade the various bidders from technical as well as financial point of view. So how much points are you giving for the understanding of the need? How well the bidder has understood our requirement? Our overall our life cycle cost. Will the selected seller produce the lowest total cost of ownership? Technical capability, does the seller have or can the seller be reasonably expected to acquire the technical skills and knowledge required? Risk, how much risk is embedded in the statement of work? How much risk will be assigned to the selected seller? And how does the seller mitigate the risk? So all these things have to be pointed out there. Moreover, what is their management approach? Some points for that. What is his technical approach? Is he giving any warranties? What is his financial capacity? What is the production capacity and interest? Business size and type of the contractor? Past performance of the seller? Any references? Intellectually property rights? Who will hold the intellectual property rights of the job? And any proprietary rights? Does a seller assert any proprietary rights in the work processes or services they will use or in the products they will produce for the project? Do they have any proprietary systems which will be used? Because if they have any proprietary systems, they will charge extra for that. Then we come over to the next process, which is conduct procurement. This process is pretty simple because in this process, we are just going to perform all that work from the advertisement of newspaper till the contract is signed. So what are the jobs involved in it? After you have done the make or buy decision, you have already created a statement of work and procurement documents. Now, based on those procurement documents, you will advertise in the newspapers or whatever way you want to invite the invitations, invite the bids. Before the bids arrive, we do conduct bidder meeting or bidder conference in which the bidders come and their doubts and questions and queries are clarified. Then the last day of the submission of bids, all the contracts, all the bids or proposals are being received. Those are then evaluated. We may have independent estimate done that. These are all the tools and techniques you can look at here. And using our expert judgment and all that and analytical techniques, we will decide on the selected seller. and then we will negotiate an agreement with him or a contract. So initially in inputs, we had the procurement management plan, we had the procurement documents, source selection criteria, sellers' proposals are also received here, project documents are here, make or buy decision which we made earlier is also as an input here, and procurement statement of work is also here, and organizational process assets from the organization, and all these tools we discussed, bidder conference, proposal evaluation and all that. This is all what we have to do, and ultimately we negotiate the procurements and finally award the agreement or contract to the seller. So seller is selected in output, agreement is awarded, resource calendars are available, the dates are available when the job on this subcontract will be finalized, will be done. If there is a change request till now, that would be moved to the integrated change control, and project plan and project documents will be updated. So essentially there is nothing new. I have already explained what the bidder conference does. Proposal evaluation techniques, you must devise a mechanism how to evaluate the proposal. Then you already have the selection criteria. Based on that, you will use the proposal evaluations. Procurement negotiations will be done. These are the various types of documents. Request for proposal is normally done for the purposes of a solution. When you want a solution, normally where the scope is slightly unclear and you just want a solution, in that case we normally ask for a request for proposal. Like you see, I have special equipment installed in this room, and there are specific requirements that this room has to be kept at this level of temperature, this level of humidity and all that. So I don't know how to get the room cooled to that level and humidity maintained to that level. So if I ask for a solution, I don't know what kind of machine would be installed. So if I ask for a solution, this is the request for proposal. Somebody would quote a AC, somebody would quote some other solution. So all is welcome. And whichever is the best solution, that should be selected for them. But if I know that I need to have a AC installed of this much capacity, and uh, I even know the name and model of the AC, then there is nothing else to do except for request for quotation. So I'm sure what I'm buying. So I'm asking for who can provide it cheapest to me. So RFQ is normally done for materials or services, and it is price driven, and they are normally, um, for those things for which the scope is not very much changing. We have clear cut definition of the scope. But in a request of proposal, we have uh, a bit of uncertainty in the scope. Therefore, the system requirements could fluctuate a bit, and the proposal would address that. Then we have warranties. Whenever we get into deals with someone, the warranties could be of two types: implied warranties and express warranties. Implied warranties are those which the act of sale itself implies that you are buying something, and that something is supposed to provide some kind of usage. Like I buy a glass, it is supposed to be a container to retain liquids. If I buy this glass, and when I put a liquid in it, it leaks. That means it is not fit for general use or for any special use it is designed. Therefore, this glass is to be returned, and the shopkeeper has to accept it back. Without having given any warranty, he sold me a glass, but the thing is not performing the duties of a glass. So this is the implied warranty, that if the general fitness purpose or the special fitness purpose is not being used, not being complied with, the item procured may be returned. Express warranties are in case of equipment which gives you certain guarantees which are beyond the mere act of sale. Like you see, you buy a mobile and they tell you there is a warranty of 6 months with it. That means you have bought it, you take it home, and it is all right, it is fit for general use and everything, but they are covering this product for another 6 months. If something goes wrong with it, they are going to fix it. This is called an express warranty. Then are the control procurements. In control procurements, we have, just like all other controls, we will have the project management plan, project documents, agreements, any approved change request. Approved change request coming from, as you all understand, approved change request comes from integrated change control when some change is approved. So this change has been approved by integrated change control, and this change request is about the contract, the subcontract. Therefore, such approved change requests come here, work performance reports come here, and work performance data also comes here. This and this is coming from, work performance data is coming from execution, work performance reports are coming from monitoring and control, process monitor and control project work. Here you will apply the contract change control mechanism or system. Procurement performance reviews will be done on the performance data. Inspections and audits as agreed in the contract will be carried out. Performance reporting of the procurement work is done here. The payment system, the payments which have to be released to the contractor, the claims he is submitting, they have to be administered, and the record has to be managed for all subcontracts. Resultantly, we will produce the work performance information from this control also, and it will go to monitor and control project work. So you see, the work performance data is received here. It produces work performance information. This information goes to monitor and control project work, which converts into performance report, and copy of report comes back to the input as an input to this process. Any change request that can be moved from here, project plan, documents, and organization process assets are updated. In closed procurements, that is the simplest of processes, but it is responsible for the procurement audits. So project management plan and the procurement documents are input. It checks everything. The procurement audits ensures that all the work of the procurements of the subcontracts have been completed and all the deliverables have been delivered. Procurement negotiations have concluded, or if not concluded, they are concluded here, and record is finally managed and it is submitted to the organizational process assets. So if all the conditions are met, the procurements are declared closed. So that brings us to the end of the chapter of procurement. Any questions?
No, sir, it's clear for now.
Okay, I have to run to the next class. So I am very much thankful for you to be with me,
Thank you, sir.
and we'll see you tomorrow for the last chapter. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Good night.